Welcome back. As we've mentioned, a forklift, especially a counterweight forklift or counterbalance forklift, is like a seesaw. And so long as you've got the heaviest part of your forklift, your seesaw, the counterweight being behind you, then no matter what you load on the front, everything's fine. But as soon as you load too much on the front, and soon as your load becomes greater than what the capacity is, your forklift will tip up, virtually using the front wheels like a pivot point, like a seesaw does. Your front wheels or your front axle, that point becomes the pivot point or the fulcrum on your forklift. And you have now taken your forklift into dangerous ground. And so you need to be aware that the capacity of your forklift is important because it determines whether your forklift is going to be safe to move and to continue through the path of movement. One of the ways to sort of picture a forklift is the weight of your forklift is pushing down through all four wheels. And as it pushes down through those four wheels, imagine the weight going down through the wheels, through the center of the forklift. Now, when there's nothing on the forks at the front, everything pushes down evenly through those wheels. But imagine a pendulum swinging, like the pendulum on an old clock. As you load the front of the forklift, as you pick up heavier and heavier load, the pendulum slowly swings forward. And as it swings forward, it reaches the front axle. At this point, everything is okay and you've reached capacity. But as soon as you overload, add too much to the front of the forklift, up she goes, and potentially it'll tip over. And so you need to picture this, what we call stability triangle in your mind, and keep that pendulum behind the front axle. Now, whenever you're traveling uphill, make sure the load leads, the load goes up first. That way, the pendulum is swinging back behind the front axles and keeping your load stable. Of course, if you were to drive down a hill with your load pointing down, number one, the risk is that your load could slip off the forks. But of course, the pendulum would swing in front of the front axle and cause you to tip up and your load would begin to slide off, and that would be terrible. So whenever you're traveling downhill, it's best to reverse down the ramp, which causes the load to push more firmly against the backboard and allows the weight distribution to fall behind the front axle, which gives you greater stability. Whenever you're traveling up a hill, drive with the load up, drive forward, so that again, your load is pushing back against the backboard, giving you greater stability, and your weight distribution is again behind the front axle, and you will travel much more safely up that hill.